mother met this convicted sex offender, Robbie Potter, a couple of days ago through Candace's brother. We understand they are in a relationship that's fairly new. Last they were heard from was the grandmother heard from Candace on May 31st, and the best we can tell, they went to a camping site in Delaware County, which is just north of Columbus, according to police.
I found out shortly after that weekend, but it was my understanding that she was going to go down to southern Ohio to her cousin's graduation for the weekend. That was supposed to be the plan. You know, she let me know this earlier in the week. And then it wasn't until the last couple of days that I found out about the whole camping trip.
Straight out to the lines, Kara, South Carolina. Hi, dear.
Hi, Nancy. I just want to tell you that my mother and I really, really appreciate the voice that you give to the victims of these horrendous crimes.
Thank you.
No problem. Okay, my question is, has the father of this little girl and the uncle of this little girl, have they been questioned by police? Because something stinks. It's just not adding up.
To Drew DeSerto, he is the Assistant Chief Deputy U.S. Marshal out of Northern Ohio. You know what? She's right. Their stories don't make sense. The whole story about they didn't mean to help him escape. It was all a trick gone bad. And then suddenly the mom, Candace Watson, just manages to show up and he hops in the car and they take off and they've been gone all this time. It doesn't gel.
You know, Nancy, you're absolutely right, and that's one of the reasons why they're in custody. Our investigators have spoken to them to answer the question, and this is still an ongoing investigation, so I can't release specific details as to what they've said and what's going on with that, but they have been spoken to, and they had enough that we were able to get charges for complicity to escape on them.
You know what? You're right. So that says it all right there. To Kara in South Carolina, you're right, Kara. Authorities have charged them all and helping him escape. And now he's with this little girl alone with the mommy who clearly is not protecting her. To Sherry in California. Hi, Sherry.
Hi, Nancy.
What's your question, dear?
I was just wondering if investigators could track down the tent that the mom returned and track down any DNA or other evidence from that tent.
Interesting question. Let's unleash the lawyers. Susan Moss out of New York, child advocate and family law attorney. Ann Bremner, high-profile lawyer out of the Seattle jurisdiction. Paul Batista, defense attorney and author of Death's Witness. Sue Moss, what about it?
Oh, absolutely, and that's one of the first things that they're going to be doing. But if this mom knew that her boyfriend was an SOB, sex offender boyfriend, and she took this child with him, then she is also guilty of any crime that this guy does on this child under a conspiracy theory. And if she didn't know that he was a sex offender boyfriend and just took this little girl with a guy she just, got out of prison or the halfway house, then she's also guilty of being stupid.
To Ann Bremner, I agree with Sue Moss about trying their best to track down this tent. I mean, they found out fairly soon after it was returned. But Walmart, it's just like a Vegas casino. There are surveillance cameras everywhere. They are not letting one potato chip leave that store if they can stop it. All right? So the only problem is, have they taped over the surveillance video to confirm the story that they were there on the 6th?
Well, and that's the problem in terms of the disclosure being late. But yeah, you're right, Nancy, not a potato chip, nothing. That's going to be on surveillance tape, and they can sure see if she was there and take a look at that tent.
And you know, Ann Bremner, if she is there and she has left this child alone and unsupervised with a sex predator, to me, those are charges of child neglect, proven.
Well, I think it can be there, just like Casey Anthony. We saw that was the initial charge. I don't agree with Susan Moss, in for a dime, in for a dollar, just by virtue of being in proximity. But, leaving the child, I think
What about it, Paul Batista? Is that a charge?
Obviously, I agree with Ann. We don't know, Nancy, whether something really dire has happened. The woman has custody of her daughter. She has a right to travel with her daughter. She may have very bad judgment, but we don't know that she's committed a crime.
All right, okay. You know what? You have children, don't you, Batista?
Oh, Two beautiful children. Nancy.
As I thought I remembered, and I can just imagine you having them alone with a sex offender at age 4. You know darn well that that is child endangerment. But you know what? Stick to your story. I'd be mad if you didn't. Back to Maria Durant with WSYX. What about the thought of getting DNA off a tent? I don't see it.
Well, this tent is the big key. I actually spoke with investigators, and in fact, we were the ones who told them that this woman here at the Walmart saw her on Saturday. When I spoke with investigators, they said, yes, they're coming down here tonight. What they want to do is look at the tent, and they also want to look for any type of receipts that she signed saying that she was here.
Everyone, the tip line, 866-492-6833. Her grandmother praying tonight, along with many of us, that this child is unharmed. Right now, we are taking you to another story about a 9-month-old baby girl and an alleged assault on the pregnant mom. Take a listen.